think this is the time that we need to sit back and get out our credit cards and go through some therapy lessons.
Oh, I've already swiped. I've already swiped. And his $10,000 is en route to his bank account. I've already swiped and paid it. Already, I pulled out the black American Express card. He's already paid.
Coach, we need to put you on retainer.
2 days.
There you go. We're going to have you on retainer, Coach.
That's right. I'm easy, but I'm not cheap.
There you go. Look, man.
I got my aspirin right here because I'm just gonna listen to Dad. So I'm putting it on mute. I'm just gonna listen.
Okay, Coach. The Saints had a flurry of activity the past couple of days. None bigger than the Drew Brees signing. Let's get your take on what happened there with Drew Brees signing the $44.25 million contract for the next 2 years, extending him to be with the Saints until 2017.
Well, it's about time. My goodness, it's not a no-brainer working out details in a contract, but it was stupid to believe that they could go through this season with Brees not being under contract and then next year just franchising. And here's something that came up this week, and I know the Saints knew this, but not many people in the media did in this area. We thought, I don't study salary cap that much, okay? But if you're franchised for a third time, which it would be in this case, you get 140% of something. Now, originally, many of us in this area thought there was 140% of his salary, which is $20 million. So that would make it $28 million for next year. And so the Saints could afford to pay him $28 million to keep him from going into free agency. Well, lo and behold, I believe what we found out was that it's 140% of his cap figure, which is $30 million.
Right.
So in other words, the Saints would be on the hook for $43 million for 1 year instead of $28 million. As soon as that, all of a sudden, as we became aware of that, then all of a sudden they're going back into negotiations. I think that's a coincidence. But it was stupid. There's no logical reason whatsoever for the Saints not to have worked this out way ahead of time. Because they couldn't afford, before this was worked out, the Saints only had less than $3 million in cap space available. You can't go into the regular season with only $2 or $3 million of cap space because stuff is going to happen. You're going to have to replace players with more players, and all of that counts against your salary cap. You've got to go into a regular season with at least $7 million in cap space available and 10 or 11 million, somewhere between 7 and 10 million, let's say, at a minimum, so that you can improve yourself during the course of the season, so you can adequately try to take action during the season as things are going to happen. So it was critical in my mind, and we've talked about this a bunch of times on the show. What was keeping them from getting this done, other than the fact that Mickey Loomis does a poor job of dealing with somebody who has leverage? And even though Loomis and them do a pretty good job of still being able to acquire some players and working out things under the salary cap, they're still leading the world in dead money for this year.
Yeah. Yes.
And by a wide margin. The Saints, after all the deals they had done, still have 73 players under contract for $35 million in dead money. $35,884,483 in dead money.
Wow,
they're leading by $7.5 million. The Cleveland Browns are next at 28,378. Then the Eagles at 22,764. Then the Falcons at 21. The Lions are next at 17,500. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth from the worst team in the league is half of what the Saints owe in dead money. In fact, I'm going to give you the top five.
Okay.
Saints, Browns, Eagles, Falcons, Lions. what all those teams have in common? They stink. And that's why they stink. Because they're bad. Because they have too much in dead money. The outlier in the top 10 of all people are the Patriots. The Patriots are 10th, 9th or 10th, but their dead money is at 11.9, 1/3 of what the Saints' dead money figure is. So even though the Patriots are 10th, they're the outlier in a list of 10 because after the lines of the Rams, Bills, Patriots, Giants, Redskins. But when you're getting down to the Patriots, Giants, Redskins, that's 11 million in dead money. So dead money shows you how bad. It's not Drew Brees' contract that's kept his team from acquiring players. It's the poor use of the resources that they have available to themselves. And it shows up really in how late the Saints got this done because they should have had salary cap money available so that the Saints could acquire players and not have this frenzy, this feeding frenzy. I can't keep up with the changes because, number one, they don't tell you what the changes are. The NFL doesn't tell you. It's depending on Twitter to find out who's coming, who's going, who's here, who's there.
Isn't that something? So, isn't that something? I mean, and it's not just us in the media. It's some of the main guys in the media that report on the Saints, the beat writers themselves. They rely on the reactions from agents as well as the players themselves may say something on Twitter, and that's where they're getting their news from. And it's a lack of cooperation, and we don't want to get on this rant, but it's a lack of cooperation between that media department. Or could it be Loomis, or could it be Matt, in the PR department, whoever? It just doesn't make sense how they treat the media in relating to
I know what the
team.
problem is, Dad and Kyle. I got one thing. Put the booze down, people. Put the booze down.
Okay. All right. Coach, you said something about
that's a league-wide problem. And nobody, I know this is incorrect English, but nobody wants to tell nobody nothing. And the amount of secrecy and spy versus spy. Like a Mad Magazine skit. It's just incredible how this comes and goes and everything. The one thing that was really obvious, and it ended up working out for them, is that they kept Garrett Grayson as long as they possibly could, hoping that other teams would have their quarterback situations set up so that when they put him on waivers, no one would pick him up. And then he could be signed to the practice squad, which is what happened today.
Let me ask you, Coach, do you think that was orchestrated by the Saints as well as Drew cooperating? Because it seems like they had already agreed in principle several days prior to this being announced.
Well, but Breeze's signing and what was happening with Grayson really didn't have anything to do with each other.
Okay.
Grayson's. I'm trying to remember because I don't have him in a. Grayson's allowed. I think that's where they were able to bring in Sterling Moore or maybe Lutz. I mean, there was another player that was brought in. It might have been for Cadet's spot because they brought Cadet back,
and they also brought back Jari. So Jari Evans as well, and I think Assad has gotten signed to a practice squad thing. So, anyways, I think the timing of Grayson's thing was orchestrated, but I don't think Breeze's signing and Grayson's with them doing what they did with Garrett Grayson really had anything to do with that. Now I'm looking at
Saints credit there.
I'm looking at Grayson's contract. Also, Grayson went from this season possibly making $435,000. Now he's on the practice squad only $117,000.
Right.
So
that's his. Yes, that's correct. I guess I know that's his cap number because everybody on the practice squad has the same cap number. Because I go Let me see if I still have the site here. It's, I think, overthecap.com. They're almost up to the minute. Or certainly at the end of the day, they're up to date on all the salary cap stuff. And
I use Spot
they
Track.
They even had who's on the practice squad, and and how much what person got what dead money and the like. It might be Over the Cap. Over the Cap. It's
it's overthecap.com. Right. And another one is spottrack.com. That's SPOTRAC.com. You can go there as well. Okay. Let's talk about bringing back Jari Evans. Good, bad? What's your take?
Yeah, that's when you look at the same situation, he's better than what was playing. Certainly and maybe the Saints figured they were going to have a chance at doing something at the right guard position. So perhaps that's why they went ahead and moved Pete again to left guard, thinking that somebody that they brought in could play there at the right guard position. So I'm sorry that it took the direction that it did, because it certainly would have been better for everybody involved if they could have worked out the situation with Jari earlier, instead of having to have him go away. But at least he was practicing last week at Seattle. What's concerning to me about that is that Seattle doesn't have great offensive linemen, and Jari Evans couldn't hold down a position with them. They get by with like spit and glue and duct tape to kind of hold their offensive line together. They have great coaching, and they get by with their offensive line. But I was disappointed or concerned that Evans became available because he couldn't make the Seahawks offensive line. So that's good, because he could step in, and it shouldn't take him very long, especially since he's been practicing, to be able to get back. And I guess the Saints are saving some money in the deal, even though
a lot, yeah.
There's still $5 million that's dead money that doesn't go away just because he's back with the team. That money is dead money, and so that's still counting against the cap.
Okay, and the Saints did another head scratcher, Coach. You had Forbath, you had the other gentleman, Connor Barth, in training camp, the whole training camp. And then, due to a recommendation from Harbaugh in Baltimore, they fly in Will Lutz or whatever.
Will Lutz, that's right.
Bring him in. Sean Payton says he had the most outstanding kicking display he has ever seen in his life. And you sign him and you cut the guy that you selected after weeks of being on the team's squad, as well as being with the team last season.
Yes.
It's so many things to say. I'm just, let's hear what you have to say.
I'm trying to make sure I don't scratch a bald spot in my head over this one. I'm like I still got some hair, so I'm trying to keep as much of that as possible. It just goes to show you, if you're a place kicker and you're kicking for the Saints, you better rent. Don't buy, because this is the 11th kicker in the Sean Payton
in 11 years. Yep.
11th kicker. And when you look at the best teams in the league, once again, I like to look at the organizations that are successful in what they do. They don't go through 11 in a century, much less in just a particular era. And I can't imagine what Forbath could have done any more than he did. And that kicking competition was very close. And here we've got you release a veteran, and you bring in a rookie, and a rookie from Georgia State. Not saying anything, that doesn't. I love those size schools. Okay,
Right.
The